let me ask you this question. I would like to ask the AG to propose legislation for what we call small claims court. There are lots of poor people, to an example you just gave, that they have issues with others and sometimes with large firms, but the lawyer fee is greater than the fee you're claiming.
It is
It is their
disrespectful.
right.
Yes. A right, the right that someone has. All of our rights exist in context.
What is the context of a second medical opinion?
Because you're disrespecting the process.
No.
Jesus, this is common sense, man.
When we started this series of looking back at 60 years of independence, we said we wanted people who are in their 70s because of the young generation. 90% of Ghanaians were born around 1966. So we wanted our guests to take this young generation back just before independence, after independence, what was independence like in the 70s, the 80s. And our first guest was former Minister of Labour, Joseph Harmon, in which he took us back before independence. Then we had former President Donald Ramata, in which he followed the identical path. What was it like at the time of independence? And we go from there to make the 60-year journey. And so we have chosen, like Ramata, like Hamilton, someone very, and I'll use the word very again, very rich in political tradition, and someone whose experience is par excellence. He was one of the long-standing leaders in one of Guyana's great trade union, NACI, and in fact still holds an ex officio position on the executive, taking him more than 50 years in NACI trade union. He's a former Minister of Labour, a former head of the Public Service, permanent secretary in the Office of the President, former chairman of the Georgia Hospital Corporation, and currently former chairman also of Gaisugu. Currently sits as the chairman of the Public Utilities Commission, chairman of the National Trade Union Recognition Board, and chairman of a very, very long-standing important financial institution, New Building Society. Can you have more experience than that when you're talking about 60 years of independence? Our guest this evening is Dr. Nanda Gopaul, and I say further. Dr. Gopaul, thanks a lot. So let's start with the pattern we've done in the series of 60 years. What was it like around that time?
Well, I was born in 1951, and by the time the 60s reached,
We're the same age.
I have been terribly disappointed at the way our country started to move in a different direction. Instead of harmony, discontent. Instead of political unity, political division. Instead of racial harmony, racial division became the order of the day. As a young boy, I went to St. Mary's Virgin Anglican School in BV in the first few years, and because of the racial strife, we've had to migrate out of the thing into LBI, and I went to the LBI Government School, which was newly constructed then. My disappointment prior to that, I should mention that the PPP, Dr. Jagger 13, previous elections. And while they were at independence talks, and even before that, I think it was President Kennedy who called the British and said, we cannot have another Cuba, and therefore we must find means of destabilizing and removing Trinidad. And that took place during the period of the unrest. Strikers were funded, bottomhouse kitchens were created with the funds from the AFL-CIO to trade union leaders in this country, and they prepared a soup kitchen to destabilize the government at that time. The PDP government obviously tried to withstand the difficult times, but they did not. In the independence talks, I think Dr. Jagan, when he was there, obviously was looking forward to Guyana becoming independent before 1966. He wanted independence while he was Premier of Guyana. They did not give him, they did not grant it, obviously because of the political situation at that time, especially with Cuba being deemed a communist bloc and Chile's closeness to Cuba. They decided that in the discussions they were going to have elections, and it will be under proportional representation. Again, Trinidad being popular, won the elections but didn't win the majority. Under the PR system, Burnham united with the United Force, and so Trinidad was destabilized and removed from office as Premier and as Prime Minister. I think that marked a turning point for Guyana. When independence came in 1966, Dr. Jagan, while being happy about it, his supporters weren't happy because they felt that they were in for a rough time given what had happened before. And at least one estate recorded a strike against independence, and that is not widely known. But if you check the Ministry of Labour record, and in my book, I would have highlighted it, the workers at Diamonds struck against independence being granted to Guyana under Forbes Burnham at that time. As I said, it was not a strike which was engineered by Dr. Jagan or the PPP, but by the workers themselves coming out, expressing their disgust.
Because when you see what happened and Burnham's role in it, you say to yourself, I don't want independence under this man.
No.
If this man got independence and he could do that, what is he going to do? And I think that is one of the negatives of independence under Burnham. Because obviously if a man is beat prisoners when he's a prisoner, what can happen when he becomes chief of the prison? Yeah. He's going to tell the people who want to beat out of prisoners. So I guess that was one of the negatives. Independence arriving under this man.
That obviously, it hit me like a rock. As a young man, the way the people were reacting. I was closely knitted to people in the Montrose scheme, North. It was a squatting settlement, one repose squatting settlement. I used to go there because my families came from Linden, came from other parts of the country, and they were residing in these areas. So when you go and you hear them talk, no, we shouldn't take independence and let the British stay so that we can be protected, in as much as they offered very little protection when the Limeys came to Guyana. Very little was done to stop the violence. They could have stopped it, but I think they wanted to encourage it, beaten Jagan's hold on power. Chelly Jagan, on the other hand, a patriot as he was at that time and continue all his life to be a patriot, putting Guyana first, went to the independence celebration, the hoisting, the lowering of the Union Jack and the hoisting of the golden arrowhead. And at that time, he and Burnham embraced each other. People felt, well, there was hope with that type of...
but they died in despair. Subsequently, they died in despair. Not only did some of them die, some of them migrated in despair.
In despair. It was a sad day thereafter, because Dr. Jagan continued with his patriotic position for this country, and despite the following elections, which was massively rigged, he nonetheless tried to agitate and articulate a patriotic position in which his country can move as a real independent country. And he granted support. He gave his support in Parliament to the People's National Congress government of Burnham for certain acts to take place. 2/3 was necessary, I think, for the nationalization of the bauxite industry, or the support of the PPP was necessary. And Mr. Burnham told Chelly, if you support me, I'll give you a membership on the board, your party. And I worked towards that direction. The moment the support came and bauxite was nationalized, no PPP man was appointed on the board.
So that's further chagrin, further disgust with Jagan's supporters and large section in Guyana with the way independence turned out.
Yeah, it started to move where with the control of the commanding heights of the economy, Burnham dictatorship grew stronger because people were victimized ruthlessly. It wasn't private sector, it was the state sector. The state was in every part of the country. And the moment you speak out, you were victimized. People were literally targeted from their workplaces by government officials. I have been in a picket line in the 70s in which a prominent government minister, someone who's writing a lot of things in this country, was there with Rabbi Washington beating their...
I saw that. I was in the archive when I saw him. I saw Hamilton Green. You don't have to call him. If he wants to sue, he will go to court. He's 93. I'll get my lawyer to put pressure on him. I'll ask my lawyer to keep him on the stand for weeks. I was in the archives and I saw what Green was doing across his Guyana stores where the archive was. In the interview, I said, look, I saw what you do. He said, I went there to help my people. I actually find Hamilton Green one of the most obnoxious persons I've met in my life.
Well,
myself.
It is on record, and I have written to the ILO then as General Secretary of NACC. I documented these things.
In your book?
Not only in the book, most of these oppressive actions were documented to the international agencies, and Hamilton Green's role was reported to the ILO. The Committee of Freedom of Association was to investigate that. They investigated all the matters and they ruled that people's right to freedom, especially as it relates to 87, Convention 87 and 19.
So by that time you were very active with NACC.
Yes, very, very.
So you would have seen the disappointment on the faces of people of what independence was.
From 13 years right up to 1992. Right up. And I played a role right through that period in fighting and agitating for a just Guyana, for a Guyana where everyone would live in peace and harmony, where everyone could benefit from the resources of this country. I have seen sugar workers' money being squandered, the levy which should have gone major portion as profit share based on collective agreements. I've seen those hundreds of millions taken out of sugar and went to Kimbia and all these places for the development of what Burnham said was cotton growing in Kimbia. Nobody talked anything then. It led to a major strike. And Fort Burnham resorted to putting soldiers to cut cane to break the strike, but it didn't break the will of the people. They struggled for 135 days and Dr. Jagannatha adjourned the strike.
Yeah, that is a chapter in your book.
Yeah. But when you talk, Freddie, about what is happening now, some form of assistance is given to sugar because it is in a bleak state, because of what the PNC did to the industry. And nobody can tell anyone otherwise who is sane and who's objective.
So, let us take it from this, let's take it from the beginning of the 70s. And you have been an active trade unionist then with NACI. You, a trade unionist, is a person who traversed Guyana. And you were with NACI, which is one of the two major trade unions. You would have gone to the estates over West Coast.
From Skelton to High all 10
So,
estates.
you saw the frustration of people about this is what independence was. Oh God, bring back the white man.
Well,
Because I heard them say that in the 70s.
well, I can tell you this. Independence meant nothing to sugar workers, meant nothing to the PPP supporters. They were excluded from any decision making. And in fact, when the PNC government started to also celebrate the Republican status and the Republican anniversaries, in it they also had a day before the Republican Day, a workers' parade day, in which Mr. Burnham would direct public servants and workers to go in that parade. And NACI was one of the unions that said it was absolutely a charade and they must not go. They must not participate in an illegality or in a force activity. It was an activity which workers were compelled to go. If they did not go, they were going to be victimized. And so thousands of people used to march, and then the great comrade leader used to address them. And I said, NACI will not be part of that. The sugar workers were not part of that.
So from 13 you were with NACI, and you still hold an ex-officio position on the executive. So that would be how many years? About 60?
58.
58. Is there a trade unionist in Guyana that has a physical relation with a trade union for 58 years? I know Patrick Yard is now nearing 40 as president of the Public Service Union, but he would not have achieved 58 years. That's a distinction.
Well, it could be, but part of it was, Freddie, that while I continue to advocate and to assist, I allow for new leaders to emerge, new thinking to be there.
I know Tate Chandra
succeeded me and I became president.
Is he ex-migrated, right?
Yes, he's.
But he's around alive and kicking.
Yes. He came back a few months ago. And the union has evolved, moved out of sugar. When I was leaving, it had just got recognition from the sugar from the Electricity Corporation. No, then Tulsi. No, who has the work?
Oh, it's not NACI.
NACI.
So Tulsi Prasad Limited.
Seals and packaging industries, Guyana Electricity Corporation, and we made a bold bid to get the water, the Georgetown Sewage Water Commission, and the telecommunication, the repressive activities deny us those.
You can't imagine.
Well, their dynamics are changing every day, and I think Nasi is now concentrating on, apart from sugar, in the mining sector. They are now Bosai and the gold areas they have recognition.
Nasi has a rich history. Before we go on with its rich history, the Working People Alliance was born in the lower flat of Nasi. I was a founding member, so I was there. Now, during this time where independence, the dream of independence was disappearing and Burnham was in full flight, did you ever meet with him?
Burnham?
Yeah.
Yes, on 2 occasions at the TUC level, we were meeting with the TUC delegation, including Boise Rantran and myself. As part of the TUC, and they were to talk about issues of national concerns.
That was the first occasion.
Yeah, and while I was there, the moment the leaders arrived, Burnham took out all the finest scotch, and they started to drink. I remember at the residence at the city. Yes. Well, it was the residence at the bottom. And the finest scotch, and they started to drink, and they started to talk other things than what the business of the activity was supposed to be. About an hour passed, and they continued to drink. I can recall seeing Shiva's Regal at the first time I was seeing such.
And that was not the time when items were banned?
Yes.
Burnham wasn't a chair?
He was sharing with his favorite drink was Shiva's
You
Regal.
boys, who else was there?
Joseph Polidor, Gordon, a number of
And Burnham sharing out liquor left.
they were drinking the liquor, and Boise and I stood up and said, look, we want to get along with this meeting. And we didn't participate in the thing because we were shocked. Then Burnham, at the end of the last drink from one of the bottles, he said, okay, comrade, we have had a successful meeting. I put out the press release. Nothing was discussed. And then the press release.
You see, these are the kind of demonic dimensions of the man's personality that people that are not in the books.
Yeah. Burnham said, I'll put out the release. And then the release came out. The Guyana Trade Union Congress and the Prime Minister had a successful meeting in it. So discussed. The TUC agreed to this, and everything, nothing which was discussed because we were there. So we went and reported this. I reported it to Mr. Chase, who was our president then, and Dr. Jagan was told by Mr. Burnham what happened. And in that year, the TUC conference was coming, and we moved a resolution that no alcohol or no drinking or socialization must take place with the government when serious talks are involved. And we highlighted the issue. Yeah, we highlighted that, Freddie. And when we did that, some of the trade union leaders were fuming mad that we were taking out what was happening. But we said we have to. Leaders were getting corrupt by this man. They were being bribed. They were literally being fed and getting drinks.
At that meeting, did you ever speak to Burnham directly? Did you say, he was Prime Minister then, right? Prime Minister, could we get on with the matter, please? This is serious.
No, they had no chance. You had no chance. They were talking.
Because of his style.
Yeah. And so I left disappointed, and then
I can't remember if that is your book. I know I read your book.
No.
And consulted it.
I can tell you there were 3 meetings I would have had
What was the second?
That was the second one we met, and he told the persons, you will have to support my position in the banning of these food stuff.
That's at the meeting.
Yes, and
You represent Boise was there.
Boise was there.
So again, it's a trade union meeting, and Burnham telling the delegates to the Confederation, you have to support the
banning of food stuff
what did you
because
say?
we opposed it.
Boise is no nonsense.
No, we issued a statement condemning it, but this is what happened. In the midst of that discussion, what he was planning to do, this was a funny thing. Agnes Ben Corton, who was a
Minister
member,
of Housing at that time.
no, she was a member of the PNC hierarchy, WRSM, but she was a trade unionist too. And Agnes Ben Corton turned and said, oh my God, and Burnham looked at her, did I hear someone call me? that was funny.
You remember? But those things you never forget, eh?
Yeah, so I said, what, this man is good. And the third one, when we met,
The second one was at Castellanos house again.
Yes. And then the third one again was there, so we started the discussion. No, when we went in, Burnham put out the drinks again, and Ramkaran and I, no, when he put out the drinks, he said, Comrade Gopaul and Comrade Ramkaran, this is not for you. You all move
Yeah.
This is for the boys then. And after they took 10 minutes, Ramkaran and I walked out, and we left the meeting. But there's again nothing discussed, but the president
He had a cynical approach to people and power. So that was the third time you met him.
Right, and after that we met several times at the Trade Union Congress. He often would attend the reception, hosted the reception, at times for delegates, engineered the elections too, but by his presence. I remember one time he called all the leaders quietly, to caucus, those who were affiliated to the PNC. You remember the paramountcy of the party theory, and the leaders had to join the PNC, had to be affiliated to the PNC. You remember the flag I wrote about it too, was hoisted in the Court of Appeal.
Yeah.
Right, so that was the period when he felt threatened, and he engineered with again Green and some of the leaders. One of his henchmen was Basil Williams, who was a young lawyer at that time, and they would mobilize the people, the delegates, to ensure that the delegates vote for their slate. By that time we had formed the Four Union movement, and then we hadn't formed yet till 88, FICA was formed. But we had the Four Union movement, which grew into 6. And that was
and that morphed into FICA.
Yes, morphed into, and then we took control of the TUC.
But how?
In 84, we took control of the TUC. Burnham died in 85, and the boys that were saying that Burnham couldn't take that defeat because Shelley was there. He lost control of the TUC.
That was one factor.
They said that the factor Burnham couldn't take that. He couldn't take that defeat. There were only 2 times Burnham lost elections which he manipulated all his life. One was against Samuel Walker at the Labour Front, and the other one was at 1984.
I happen to know Mr. Walker
when George Daniels played a pivotal role. And George, if you're hearing, welcome to Guyana, brother. I know you came back for the celebration.
George Daniels is in Guyana at the moment.
Yes, he is in the moment. He is. And so Daniels played a major role in.
But I'd like to have him. We need to tell the young generation about that time with the Rodney Day of Resistance when Gordon Todd was kidnapped. So how is he?
I was there.
Huh?
I was there.
How is he doing? What job? Is he plan to stay in Guyana or he just going to go back?
I don't know, but
You've met with him since?
Yeah, I spoke with him. I'm going to meet with him. Danny pension was denied. He was fired while being a public servant. And you remember, they locked us up the night of the strike.
Yeah.
Daniels and myself were locked up in separate prison cells. We had information that they were going to kill Daniels, and so he left the country, never to come back until years after. But he was fired, and he didn't benefit from his pension. And I think I made representation for him to get his pension when I was Minister of Labour. Dr. Luncheon and I had agreed to carry the paper up to cabinet, but the no confidence came.
Oh my, that's got to it.
Yeah, that's what was
Yeah,
Donald thing. So I hope now it can be revisited. I think if there
Do you
was
have a president that would instantly give that a hearing? I mean, Irfan Ali doesn't have any kind of resistance or show any kind of resistance to that kind of thing, because his parents, his grandparents are from that region, and I think we should pursue that thing.
Yeah, that's the reason why I thought to welcome George, because he played a pivotal role. I remember when...
Can we have him on the program through your initiative?
I can talk with him. I remember when we won the elections, we had a celebration at PSU Hall in Regent Street, Regent Road. And Chelly lifted... Yeah. Chelly Jagan lifted Danny. He was so elated about it taking over of the TUC. Felt workers' hopes were there at 1984. Lifted Daniels and danced over the victory. So we're talking about independence. That's your reflection of independence, and one can say independence dashed. Because, well, let's we didn't. When you look, trade unions were emasculated.
The nation
all completely. And so how can you talk about freedom? How can you talk about freedom and independence when your rights were denied? When you were worse off than being under colonial rule? You can't feel free. But you know what? Following 1992 to now, and the period 92 right up to about 2007, we were poor. We had to pay back these debts.
Yeah, that
80 and 90.
80 cents of a dollar you're earning would
92% of the dollar had to go back to pay national debt. And the leadership of Barjat, your finale has done so remarkably well for this.
Dr. Gopaul, when you saw the dream of independence beginning to take shape, would it be after Burnham's death, or would it be after the loss of Desmond Hoyt in the 1992 election?
92, it couldn't be, because Hoyt was not
in the final election was terrible.
Hoyt allowed for certain things to happen and certain freedom, but Hoyt locked me and Daniels up.
1899,
yes.
What was called the vampire budget.
And Hoyt was more ruthless. Hoyt said in a Labor Day rally, the Gopauls, the Richardsons, the Lewises must be eliminated, they must be wiped out. Right and Linden. So, at the latter part, we established relationship when Hoyt allowed for free and fair elections, and he didn't allow, he was forced into giving free and fair elections to the Guyanese people and conceding the results. Then I spoke with him, and I called him Mr. President. Never before that did I, even when he was holding talks about electoral reforms. And I remember UC Guyana and Rupert and Clive Thomas going to meet with him. And I said, we should demand what we want, and we shouldn't meet with dictators. And I issued a statement on behalf of Nasi condemning these talks. And I recall privately some of the colleagues in WPA telling me if Mandela had refused to speak to the club, changes would not have come. And so that influenced them to meet with her. That they still believe changes. We said, well, I believe differently. I believe once you're a dictator, you're going to be forced into giving concession. And when you give that concession, it must be concession that genuinely.
So take Guyana. Take Guyana through 1992 onwards. Don't forget 90% of our population knows nothing first-hand, even second-hand, about the canvas you painted from 64. By the way, if that Churchill's king in Linden, he's one of the 5 persons who died in the Wisdom Massacre. 5 persons died. Churchill,
you know what he was doing? He was praying on his altar. He was working with the bauxite company. And someone went with an axe and lashed him behind his head. And his children and everybody saw that.
Oh my goodness. Those children are still...
Some of them are here.
Some of them. And
he's the grandfather of Kira North, the North gas station.
That North gas station in Unity, Mahaika.
Grandfather,
the owner of that gas station has a construction company. So the owner's parent, one of the owner's parents, would have seen the death.
Yes. But he died too. He died also tragically, was killed by bandits at the gas station. So the grandfather, he died, and the son is around. Kiran is leading the construction company now, the other brother.
So his father died and his grandfather died.
Yeah.
So Kiran would not have known what happened to his grandfather. He would not have known that.
He may not have, but he would have been told by his father, I'm sure. I'm sure, because we had a discussion. His father and we had a very close relationship. His father was working with the Electricity Corporation at one time and then opened his own business. But we were very close, we maintained that close relationship. And then Kiran would have been told as a young man about his grandfather's death and what happened. But I know of the brother's children. You don't want to say it, but people were ruthlessly raped with bottles.
You know, there's a book, there's a 500-page book just published.
Yeah.
I don't know how it becomes so expensive, but that cost is going to deter people from buying it. It's paperback, but it's $17,000 by Dr. Ramaham Beterak. Beterak Ramaham.
So when you go to Starlight Drive-In then, and there was second house, that is Dwarkanath's brother Harinath.
Who's Dwarkanath?
Dwarkanath is the person who got killed. The uncle who got killed.
Chacha?
Yes. And the brother, they were rooted out, and he had some beautiful daughters. They were very good-looking people. They lived right at Montrose. They were moved and lived on the shed for weeks before they were able to establish their home there. If you'll cry when they tell you the stories of what happened in Leonard, fleeting moments.
my mother-in-law's cousin got killed in. So he's one. So I would have a relative of one of the five, and you would have a relative. And I think that affected my wife because she was small and my mother told her what.
But we don't want to go back to
Right.
that period, Freddie. Freddie, what this country endured during that time.
All right, so
No other, not that I'm stopping or saying that the discourse must not, it must happen. People must be told, so people must be told we should never get back there. We should never allow leaders to influence our mood. And you know what? There are some leaders in this country, in the People's National Congress, that's spewing racism so badly, and people are not listening to them, and I don't know if they're not getting the message. People don't want to go back there.
no, that is massive evidence of the rejection in September 2025 of Takuma Ogunse and David Hines. If people were listening to David Hines, the PNC would not have been reduced from 31 seats to 12. Every day that man was in this thing, Indian versus that, Takuma Ogunse went to the public meeting and urged the police. And when he was arrested, there was no one at the magistrate court. I mean, we have passed that. We have done. But
I'm so happy though that our brothers and sisters understand we can't go back there.
we're not going back there. So you familiar with how dialectics work? You're familiar with Marx and Hegel's philosophy. We have done that the dialectics have left David Hines and the PNC behind.
Yeah.
What we are now seeing the glory moments of independence. Independence seems to be meaning something now. And you trace that from 92 onwards. Tell us some of the highlights post-1992 to 60 years of independence, literally 2026.
Well, the whole, after 1992, the People's Progressive Party government introduced many reforms. And in these reforms were protection for workers. All the modern pieces of labor legislation took place under the PPP, and during the period 1992, especially to 2007 or thereabout. You had the Trade Union Recognition Bill, you had the Termination of Employment and Severance Pay, you had the Occupational Health and Safety, you have several modern pieces of legislation that protect workers. We even had conventions of the ILO, which governments ratified to give protection to even domestic workers. Guyana is the only one of the few countries in this hemisphere where every worker is protected under the law. Every worker. So if that is not a development, I don't know what it is. And why some of these people spew hate and talk about racism and discrimination, and that the PPP is victimizing people. There's this anti-discrimination law. If there was discrimination and if there was people being victimized, they could go under the law and seek redress. None has ever challenged any decision by the government that is discriminatory or otherwise under that law. And so those developments are important, but more so the economic development, the opening up of industries, opening up of lands, the housing development, and the fund under the Marjagio administration played a significant role in advancing housing, in advancing development. Guyana started its modernization under the President Jagnew's period. As I said, the period 92 to up to when President Jagnew took over, we had to build a country, repay our debts, bit by bit start to make progress, as the old people will say. And the development started. So we have indicated that the architects of a modern day Guyana would be Barajagli followed by Muhammad Irfan Ali. And when you see what is happening, you can't help but wish that you had some more time on this earth.
Don't say that. When you say that, you're speaking to someone of your age who worked at a university in 26 years when there were no toilet facilities, there were no paper to put, so it brings back bad memories.
Yeah,
but we have to talk about
wish. Yeah, but you wish that you want to be around.
I
to see these things
I
change.
did a series of articles in there at 60, and I described some of the unmodern life we have to live through. And I said to myself, when I go with my wife to Puerto Rico, and when I go to Giftland, I said, why when I was 35, I couldn't be going to Giftland? Why I couldn't be seeing these things? Why I couldn't be, when I was in Canada, how I loved ice cream, chocolate. When we came back here, it was rare, and to buy it was expensive. I know Kit Nascimento said, yes, Guyana has now developed, Guyana has now gotten there, but look at my age.
Yeah.
So, you and I are all 1951.
But you know what, I'm telling you, I read your article for today, and I read all of your series on independence, and nothing could be more factual than what you have said. And you say it with a passion and with a sense of decency that you want the young people to understand. And your clamor against those who attempt to rig elections cannot be more than, one can't say we expect anything more from someone like you, because you have had a long history of struggles too. I've seen you part of our march, part of our activities or protests, and you play that role.
Anyway, no,
But let me
making me feel uncomfortable. So let's
no, but let me tell you about the attempt to rig the elections and all these people.
You mean a 5-month disaster?
5-month disaster. And the way you are plugging it is educating our people, our children, to understand sugar.
They are going to signal all time. So let me ask you. If an interviewer looks you straight in the eyes and say, rattle off 3 things that you think encapsulate the arrival of independence at 60, what would those 3, 4, 5 things? If it can be 3 or 4, maybe 1 or 2.
The massive infrastructural development, the opening up of agricultural lands, and the third, the developing of the manufacturing sector. Actually,
in other words, we are a developed economy.
We are a developing economy. The stabilization of our currency for the last 15 years, it helps us.
But Dr. Gopaul, what about, I shouldn't laugh, but it's laughable. What about the deluge of vehicles that you can't find parking anywhere in Guyana? And every 3 months, there are serious changes. So we've gone to PAP, and I just bought my car, PAE car last year.
I know. That I can tell you, yesterday I was coming back from Jamaica, and one would have thought on a holiday, the road would have been clear.
I know. It was.
And then you see bumper to bumper traffic at certain points. It's people just coming out to get home. It's a sign that you have arrived, and it's.
You can't go anywhere on this place. On this before.
But in Jamaica too, when you go in the Diu branch road, almost under every home, there will be 1 or 2 vehicles, plus the agricultural vehicle. That is progress. A few years back, you would never see that.
I bet you forget to mention this one too. During our time, you got to line up down to get a flight because it's 1 year line. Now it's 18.
Yes. They're opening up of infrastructure with and don't talk about the airstrips in the country. If you go to Ogle and you go into Brian Tiwari's Nagajag's aviation, you think you are in a foreign country. The facilities, washroom, everything.
But my wife and I went to do our eyes at a new eye hospital. And I mentioned I was in the Bascom Palmer Eye Hospital in Miami. This new hospital, Optique, on Newmarket Street. Then you go in, you think you're in a hospital in France, and I say, we got to go. Thanks for being with us. Are you writing a second book or something to educate this young population?
Well,
you're full of experience, man.
I'm harboring, I'm working on it. But
you're working on it.
Yeah, I have quite a lot of documents and quite a lot of things that I have, reports that I would have done that I can incorporate into the next phase. 94, my period was 1964 to 1994, 1994 to now. Interesting times.
No, you got to write this book. Moses Battle's autobiography is just been out last week. You got to write this thing. Nanda Gopaul, I know you what we say in Guyana, the family know donkey years. We were born the same years, I know each other with donkey years. We have to give this a couple months and then do this program again. Thanks for being with us. Thank you. This was our program, our series on 60 years of independence, in which we ask some real, phenomenal, quintessential stalwarts who have seen it all to talk to our young people about independence 60 years ago and now in its 60th year. We will see you in our next program. As I normally say, catch you later. Bye-bye.